Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles. I'm from the dYdX Foundation. I'm very excited today to give you an update on the dYdX ecosystem, the dYdX protocol, and the kind of evolution of the protocol upcoming. Before we get started, a little bit of a safe harbor. Everything discussed here is not investment advice or anything related. With this being done, we will try to understand a little bit where we are today in the evolution of the internet. I'm going to give you a quick update on the ecosystem of dYdX, an update on the version 4 of dYdX. Many people are paying attention. Many people are building it with the dYdX ecosystem. We will speak about the dYdX DAOs. There is a lot of activity over there, and how you can get involved as well. So I have one question for you: is where are we today when it comes to the internet? And I believe we are only at the beginning of the internet. Obviously, it's something we are all using every day today, but it's I think, a very long timeline, and essentially a public good which will keep evolving with us, building upon it. So if we look at the timeline, we got the first computers in the 70s, then Bitcoin came up, Ethereum later on, Cosmos, and then I really invite you to try to think and position within this timeline the Facebook of the world, the Mongox, Uniswap, FTX, and maybe Urbit, why not? But it's really, for me, it's very much an inspiration to be in this industry and to be building really public infrastructure to really enable the best of the technology and humanity. I believe as well we are, as a society, migrating from a bureaucratic age to an algorithm age. This morning, when you woke up, you open your phone, an algorithm where already is choosing for you what kind of content you will be reading. Maybe you've been checking later on the crypto markets, and the crypto markets are in part driven by algorithm or kind of systems. So in this algorithm age for the society, I really believe as well that decentralized infrastructure such as blockchain and decentralized organizations such as DAOs will really help us as humans to strive in this very, very fast-moving environment, which will be more and more kind of co-hosted by algorithms. What is also extremely important, maybe coming back to the timeline of the evolution of the internet, is to think on how much the internet has already demonstrated to us its capabilities in composability. Composability is a keyword which we often use in our space, but it's extremely important to kind of sometimes settle down and trying to really digest what does it mean and what is the upcoming potential for further composability. And the internet is truly a composability factory, which gives me a lot of optimism. All these potentials of the technology come also with responsibilities. The list of responsibilities for us in the industry is a long list. I'll try to cover some of them. We really want to stay engaged with regulators. I don't think we should be shy of conversations with them. Most of them are very, very much progressive. They want to understand the technology. One thing I've seen in the past, which probably did not bring the results people were expecting, was only to claim what DeFi brings. And I think it's worked better when we essentially demonstrate to regulators how their agenda on protecting users, on keeping market healthy, actually align with the capabilities of DeFi. So I really invite everyone to stay engaged with regulators and also kind of look back on the way you are conversing with them. Don't be afraid also to work with regulators. They need to work with us as well. If you put together different pieces from our ecosystem, obviously CBDCs are coming our way. Stable coins are also already in motion. DeFi obviously is doing very well, and regulations are evolving. So this equation is not something which is unsolvable. It's definitely solvable, and spend time on being part of this solution. Also I think it's one of our responsibilities to keep essentially explaining the difference to governments, to regulators, to users, to executives in companies around us. Keep explaining the difference between money crypto and tech crypto. It's probably an obvious statement for us here in this room, but we have to stay aware that we are very early in our ecosystem and that we need to preach and kind of explain these kind of basic ideas to make sure people understand that money crypto and tech crypto are different. The same way people were essentially evangelists of the early internet, explaining that the internet is not only about scams, but the internet is also sharing data, is also connecting us. So it's a very similar journey to the people involved in the early days of the internet back in the 80s, 90s. I think one thing also which is part of our responsibilities in this space, and many of you are builders here, is to rethink and revamp the negative jargon around our industry and products. If you sit down and think a little bit of the words we use every day, sometimes in our product UX or sometimes in our conversations, we are speaking about non-custodial wallets. If you talk to my wife, for example, which is not a crypto native person, she will be sometimes confused, thinking, what is this wallet doing exactly? It's not custodial, so where is my money? So we can probably use another word or use better wording. Thinking also of permissionless. Permissionless is obviously a very, very, very strong and very, very high potential in terms of technology enablement. But it's also a word which can be bringing some fear and maybe some questions from newcomers in our space. Think of immutable, think of government-free, think of trustless. Think also of how many times users are being asked to connect with their wallet. And for newcomers, it's really weird, and it will remain very weird for many years. When I say hello to you in the hall here during this event, I'm not asking to see your wallet. I just want to shake hands and kind of connect with you. And we keep using and asking our users to connect with their wallet. So there is some work here to be done to really rethink the way we kind of create an experience for the new users. And also what is very important and really at the heart of the DeFi industry in general, at the heart of the dYdX ecosystem and product roadmap from the early days, is building DeFi products with the user intention at the heart of the products, with no hidden agenda. And we've seen with the latest dramas on CeFi over the past months and years that sometimes people in the crypto world will build products which are not always putting the interest of the users at the front of every piece of design and every product decision. And that's really, I would say, in my opinion, one of the secret sauce, which is an open recipe, just to be diligent, to be really open and building products which will bring transparency, efficiency, and not being kind of hiding anything from the end users. So to kind of segue from this UX improvement is really looking at how we can keep improving the custody systems. We see a lot of progress there with MPCs and some other solutions. That's something which is always some kind of bump on the road for new users, as well as thinking of the UX, moving away from the industry jargon and keep simplifying the user experience in general. Maybe one last responsibility we have also as an industry. I'm a very, very strong believer in DeFi. We are building DeFi at dYdX with the community. And also, I think one of our responsibilities is to deliver functional DAOs to really enable these global public goods. And DAOs are in motion today. Some of them have been doing fairly well. Some others have been failures. Some others are being launched nowadays with taking some of the learnings from the previous iterations from DAOs. But I think it's also a strong responsibility for all of us in this industry to think and build and share our learnings through this process, how you build efficient DAO to make sure that the same way your products might be scaling in a global in kind of a global pace, you can also scale your organization or scale the relationship you have with your community in general. Let's talk about dYdX. A short history about dYdX. dYdX was started in 2017, first on Ethereum mainnet. So definitely a project which has been early days and striving since then. A few years later, the second generation of dYdX was built on layer 2 StarkX from Starkware. And dYdX has been reporting last year in 2022 $466 billion of volumes, cumulative volumes on the platform. The ecosystem of dYdX keep evolving. We are extremely excited and many of us busy at building the version 4 of dYdX. which will be the dYdX chain built out of the Cosmos SDK, and which will be a customizable chain dedicated to this use case around the core product of dYdX. I'll come back to this a little bit later on. Coming back a little bit to the roadmap and some key data. So as I mentioned, $466 billion of volumes last year. Cumulative fees about 100+ million of fees collected last year as well, and about 30K traders using the protocol. Our journey to the version 4 of dYdX, the Cosmos-based version, is going through 5 main milestones. We've been progressing very well. The private testnet, which is a milestone number 3, has been concluded a few weeks ago, and the public testnet will be starting in a few weeks. So if you're a validator, if you're a beta tester in general, keep your ears open and eyes open on all the news related to dYdX. It's a public testnet where we really look forward to have as many engagement as well as feedback on the product so far. And the milestone 5, which will be the last milestone before the launch, should be happening later this year. So why are we building dYdX v4? The version 4 of dYdX enables us to keep progressing in decentralization. In terms of products, dYdX has been, I would say, very opinionated in choosing one side. And when you build on DeFi, it's not always easy. Sometimes you have technological constraints, and you cannot always put everything on chain, for example. But really, progressing in terms of decentralization is something which is really a point of attention and a point of progress always at dYdX. So progressing further in decentralizations means decentralizing the matching engine. We will talk about this a little bit later. The order book, the sequencers. The version 4 of dYdX also enables DAOs. So there is 2 DAOs today in the dYdX ecosystem, the grants DAO as well as the operations DAO. And there will be no central parties in the new version of dYdX. So the DAOs will be really in control together with the community of the strategy and implementation of the dYdX protocol in general. This version 4 of dYdX also enables us to increase the capacity of the platform, increase the throughput, get a better finality and a better outcomes of trades, as well as preparing, I would say, the foundation for new products and new services around the protocol. So let's be a little bit technical, excuse me, and try to look a little bit at what will be the 3 main components in the version 4 of dYdX. Maybe before we start, I really like to kind of emphasize that the version 4 of dYdX will be completely decentralized end-to-end and will be also outsourced. So all the source from dYdX, from the back end to the front end, will be outsourced. So it will be open source and available for anyone to fork or look at. So 3 main components in the dYdX version 4. The first subset of components is the protocol itself. So the dYdX chain will be built on Comet BFT using the Cosmos SDK, and there will be 2 types of nodes, the validator nodes as well as full nodes. On the validator side, which is another part of the protocol stack, they will be responsible for storing orders in memory. So essentially the validators will have 2 main missions. The number 1 mission will be to verify and produce blocks for the dYdX chain. And the second mission will be to keep updated within their memory, the memory of the validators, the latest version of the order book. So that's really the way essentially the order book gets decentralized. It will not be sitting on chain, but it will be sitting in the memory of the validator. So that's a very much a breakthrough architecture which we're very excited to bring to the world and testing with all of you during the testnet. So the validators will be hosting the order book. They will be gossiping also the transactions and the order book updates among themselves, the validators, as well as producing the blocks through the consensus process. Full node will have 0 stake, and they will not be involved in the consensus at all. They will just simply be gossipers and archiving as many transactions as possible. Another big part of the version 4 of dYdX, another component is the indexer. So the indexer is a read-only collection of services indexing essentially all the major information needed by users of the platform. It's more something which is closer to Web2 infrastructure, essentially consumed mostly via API. And the last component of the version 4 of dYdX is the front end. So people will be able to essentially deploy web applications as well as mobile applications. On the web app, people will be able to deploy a JavaScript and React code base, which will be also leveraging IPFS. It will be open source, as well as mobile apps, iOS and Android, built with native Swift and Kotlin. So that's for the technical part of the architecture. I'm going to go again, and some of you might be familiar with trading, so that may be a point of attention for you. Looking a little bit at what will be the life cycle of an order in this new type of architecture at dYdX. So first, the user will place an order on the decentralized front end via the website or via API, if it's a kind of a systematic trader or high-frequency trader. Then the order will be routed to a validator. This validator will gossip the transactions to other validators and to the full node to essentially update their order book with this new order. Then the consensus process will pick one validator within the dYdX chain to be the block proposer. The selected validator will match the order and adds it to the next proposed block. When the proposed block, I will say, follows its path, it will go through the consensus process, and depending on, I will say, the number of validators and the proportion of validators validating this block will be essentially committed and then saved on-chain on the on-chain databases and shared with all the validators and full nodes. After the block is committed, an updated on-chain data will be streamed to all the set of validators as well as the indexer to essentially update all of them on the finality of the order. So the big takeaway here is we are one example of many applications becoming a protocol. So it means we used to sit on other projects' blockchains, and we are becoming really a full stack protocol. So this is what we call dApp chain, and that's an interesting use case, I think, for how the industry evolves, as well as how businesses might be approaching eventually maybe their roadmap or the kind of deployment and growth of their applications. Let's touch on the dYdX DAOs. So dYdX is having plan of different DAOs. Today there is 2 DAOs which have been deployed. The Grants DAO, which is running and effective and striving, supporting a lot of research in risk management, a lot of research in data collections and data treatments around the protocol itself. And another DAO which has been enabled earlier this year is the Operations DAO. And the community is discussing some potential additional DAOs later down the road after the chain kind of get launched and settles. So there is conversations about a risk and analytics DAO, R&D, growth, and finance and treasury management. But this is really in the hands of the community to decide how and when they would like to see those additional components to the DAO ecosystem of dYdX to surface. Talking about DAOs, the dYdX Operations DAO, so it's a sub-DAO, has been essentially in conversations with the community lately about getting some funding to prepare for version 4. So the DAOs would like to hire more engineers, getting some key infrastructure in place to essentially support version 4 of dYdX. So a snapshot was happening last week. The data is not necessarily the latest data, but eventually the community strongly supported the funding of the Operations DAO from dYdX, and this funding will be coming from the community treasury. So there is next week, if you have the chance to be a part of the community of dYdX, you will have also the opportunity to change to vote for the on-chain vote for this proposal. Essentially funding the dYdX sub-DAO for operations with $6.6 million to support the launch of version 4 of dYdX. If you want to know more about the ecosystem, if you're curious about who are the market makers, who are the validators, who are the users and co-builders or adjacent members of the dYdX ecosystem, don't miss the dYdX ecosystem annual report. It has been published by the dYdX Foundation earlier this year, and there will be an update of this report available within the summer, kind of looking at how the testnet has been progressing and how the ecosystem is progressing overall. Some takeaways. dYdX is a leading DeFi application, becoming a protocol. dYdX is migrating to its own chain, so we are not spreading dYdX to other chains. We are really migrating, and that's a process which will take some time, but that's a different way to kind of evolve from different stacks of blockchain. The community is really in charge and has the destiny and the strategy and the execution in their hands via the DAOs. And the decentralized governance are really the kind of new and emerging form of legal structure for the space in general. So we are very excited to be part of this journey with the community and building efficient DAOs. Something I should have mentioned also earlier regarding the Ops DAO proposals from dYdX. The Ops DAO proposal includes the use of a third-party auditor for the DAOs. So, to the best of my knowledge, this will be the first time a DAO decides to use a third party to audit their own accounts and making sure that I will say the management as well as the accounting in general within the operations DAO will be done properly. So that's also, I will say, one step further in terms of professionalization of DAOs and kind of maturing of the stack and the practice in general. If you want to participate into the ecosystem of dYdX, I really invite you to. We have a lot of Korean friends here which are already active members in the community. You can start your journey via different websites. dYdX.community, dYdX.forum are a really good place to start. If you want to get more involved with the DAOs, there is a great portal, dYdX.DAO.info, dYdX Ops DAO, also for everything related to the operations, as well as the dYdX Foundation, which I represent today together with my colleague Isashi, which is sitting here. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your time today. Very excited to be connecting with all our friends from Korea this week. And see you on the dYdX chain very soon. Thank you.